Oh, what a privilege it is to introduce the Honorable Willie L. Brown, Jr., Chairman and CEO of the Willie L. Brown Institute on Politics and Public Service. But before I do this, you just gotta indulge me for 60 seconds. I have to tell you this story. He was then mayor of San Francisco and called and said, Glenda, I need you to come and keynote my women's conference. 10,000 women in the convention center for breakfast. I said, Mr. Mayor, I'm honored, but I have a corporate board meeting. I have got to be in Connecticut. He said, no, you don't get this. I need you in San Francisco. He sent a jet for me. Sent a jet. Al, I'm trying to act like I'm used to something, right? You know, I'm trying to act, so they come back and they say, Ms. Hatchett, the crew says, the mayor's on the phone. While you're ready to take off, you know, I'm used to being on a commercial, like they take off when they get ready. I said, oh yes, I'm ready to take off. So the mayor, and now this is late at night, right? And I got to speak like at first thing in the morning at the convention center. And so the mayor is on the phone. Did you go to sleep that night? He was calling me, calling. All right, where are y'all? Where are y'all? Where are you? So this is the first time we have shared being on a podium since then. He was the only, Dr. Vivian, there were 10,000 women. He was the only man in the room. The security detail for the mayor that morning were all women. The wait staff were all women. There were no men except for Mayor Brown. Then I'm thinking, God, the pressure is on because I got here on this private jet G something that took off way up above the commercial things, flying a zillion million hours. I thought, God, if I'm not good, I'm gonna go home on Greyhound. I better be good. So then he gets up without one note and introduces me. And I really wish I could do that with you today. You're a bad brother. Born a Texan, an American icon, political icon in this country because of the amazing work that he has done. This is a man who served over 30 years in the California State Assembly, having served 15 years as the Speaker of that body, the first African American to have done so. And he did that longer than anybody else has ever done, ever in history. He later became mayor of the city of San Francisco. Somewhere are my notes, here we go. He was elected mayor, and again, first as the first African American to have served as a Speaker of the State Assembly, and then the first African American to have served as mayor of that city. He was elected and then re-elected again in San Francisco, after which time he spent some time as a radio talk show host. He has done so many different things. And what we know about him most in this nation is that he is a man who does not compromise his position. He's very clear about who he is and what he stands for. And I am proud to know him, and we are so grateful to have him as a guest today as he brings his keynote speech. Not only has he been an outstanding and iconic figure in this nation, he also is an author. And I will tell you that it is an autobiography, and it just blanked out on my screen. What's the name of the book? Something Brown?
Yes, Basic Brown.
Basic Brown. An autobiography. He's also, you've seen him as an actor. He's had guest appearances in these major films like The Godfather, and it goes on and on and on and on. But what I do want to say as I bring him to you today is that we are grateful for your service. We are grateful for the dedication. We're grateful that you have been on the battlefront day in and day out, making a difference, not for just people in California, but for people throughout this nation. We applaud your courage, we applaud your tenacity, we applaud the great work that you have done for decades. With that, I present to you the Honorable Willie L. Brown, Jr.
Judge, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. You should know, Judge, that you were the first woman that I ever sent a jet for. Oh, to really be rich. She did such a splendid job.
I've never had a man to send a jet for me before. Before or since.
I am, of course, really delighted. In the place where I live in San Francisco, your president was there hanging out with my banker. Brenda Wright from Wells Fargo is my banker. Now, let me tell you something. In the world of politics, you absolutely have to have a banker. Somebody has got to cover your overdrafts. Wells Fargo may have gotten in financial trouble for Brenda covering my overdrafts. That's how awesome Brenda really was. But Brenda and your president called me and said, you have got to be in Florida in June to speak at a lunch for the 100 black men. And I, of course, said, I don't have a choice. I don't want my credit line adversely affected. The leverage that you have when you can mess with somebody's credit line. And in the world of politics, your credit line is important. That's a bad newspaper story. They print that the brother doesn't pay his taxes, owes child support, and all those kinds of overdraft, overdrawn. So I immediately said yes, although I had no idea what my calendar called for. I had no idea whether or not I actually had the time. But I'm here because I should be here. I'm here because you extended the opportunity through your leadership. I could only get here, however, because 100 black men, Glenda, not like me. They didn't send no plane for me. I don't understand that, but they didn't send no plane for me. They gave me a ticket on, of all things, JetBlue. I mean, who flies JetBlue? I mean, yeah. Oh. But they gave me a ticket on JetBlue. Not only that, they gave me a red-eye ticket on JetBlue. That's the cheapest ticket you can get on JetBlue. Red-eye. I haven't flown red-eye since I left Mineola, Texas. Well, I go out to the airport in San Francisco to get on JetBlue. And of course, all the airport workers and all the people out there, they all know me, so the security thing is not an issue. They made sure that I got through the airport smoothly and got on the plane. I got on the plane ahead of the crew. And lo and behold, as the crew starts to come on, white cat comes on looking like Jack Armstrong, like he ought to be in Apollo 13 or something. And I said to the lady, who is that? She says, that's the co-pilot. And then there comes a tall, handsome, debonair brother whose cap is properly, whose outfit is all pressed pressed, clean as all look out, looking over like Tommy Smith. I said, "Who is that?" She says, "That's the pilot." And it was a brother. And I started to smile. And then I realized, wait a minute, what the hell am I doing smiling? That cat may have gotten his flying lessons, through affirmative action. While I'm really proud and all of that, this may not be the flight I want to take. So I may be just a little bit late because, and then I start to think, as other people start to get on the plane, one after another, what have you. It ended up, one but three of us, the pilot, me, and one other brother, on a plane that had 152 white folks. Now, I know the Lord ain't gonna kill all them white folks to get to us. So I felt very comfortable flying with the brother. So I'm here, in good shape. I've had a vodka, so it helps with the invocation. And I am flabbergasted because, I come from a city where there are no black people. San Francisco is 800,000 people, and only 40,000 of the 800,000 people are black. You walk around downtown San Francisco and you see one, "Hey, brother!" You look, because you don't see no black people. None. We're not there. We're not there. However, let me tell you what has occurred in the last 6 months. We had elected one of my staff people as the mayor of San Francisco to replace me. Then we elected a Chinese, another staff member of mine, to replace the person leaving. And unfortunately, the Lord called him home in December. Ed Lee died, massive heart attack. And to show you how confusing the world can really become, Ed Lee lived in a part of San Francisco where Chinese didn't live. And he was shopping in a grocery store at 10:30 at night in his neighborhood. He had a massive heart attack, dropped dead, went down, and the folk, because his security detail had been let off from work, the folk had no idea who he was. He was lying there on the floor of the store. And, they called 911, and 911 responded, said, "We'll be there in just a few minutes." They had no idea who was on the floor. Not till some sister comes along, looks down there and says, "Oh, that's Mayor Lee." And the minute she said it was Mayor Lee, the whole world changed. Everybody in the world tried to get there to help Mayor Lee, but he died. In our city, there is no vice mayor. There is a president of the Board of Supervisors. Our president of the Board of Supervisors was a woman named London Breed, a black woman from the public housing projects, a black woman whose brother is doing life in prison for some crime, whose sister OD'd 2 years ago. A sister, London Breed, raised like many of us in this room by her grandmother, went to probably the lowest rated high school in San Francisco, went on to do a number of other things while in college as a young brother who was up here, lived in the public housing projects, came out of college, became an intern in my office, and ultimately worked all the way through my administration, went on to run a community center on my way out the door. not unlike the model that comes with 100 black men. Then we got her elected to the Board of Supervisors, which is like a combination of our city council and your county commissioners. She became the president of that board. In the capacity of the president of that board, you get the opportunity to be the person that replaces the mayor if something happens to the mayor. Only other woman who's ever been the mayor of San Francisco got that job because she had the presidency of the board, is Senator Feinstein. And when Moscone was assassinated, then Moscone was mayor, was assassinated, she got elevated as the president of the board. They gave London Breed the presidency because they knew that she never was going to be elevated to anything. Ed Lee was 67 years of age, in good health, played basketball every week and what have you, but they had no idea the Lord works in mysterious ways for all of us. Ed Lee dies, London Breed becomes the acting mayor. Those progressive folk, all white except one, start conspiring on how they could change the rules because London Breed should not be their mayor. And they did just that. She lasted 6 weeks as the replacement mayor for Mayor Lee. They put in a well-to-do, rich white man. In the debate in ousting her, these so-called progressives, these so-called folk who would hold membership in the NAACP, who would contribute to the Urban League, who would give to the United Negro College Fund, who would do all those things in good conscience, but never extend power to people of color, never extend power to black folk. They couldn't bring themselves to do that. So they held this lynch meeting, as I call it, to oust London Breed as the mayor. And they did. And they said they were doing it because she was too heavily influenced by the business world, too heavily influenced by the tech world. And then the ultimate insult, she's too heavily influenced by Willie Brown. That was the ultimate insult. Those were fighting words. So they set a special election to replace the deceased mayor. That special election, June 5th, 2018. They already had in place a former state senator who had more than $400,000 in his account to run for office. They had a Korean woman with unlimited access to money from her ethnic group. They knew that they were in great shape, and they knew London still lived in the public housing projects. They knew that we were less than 5% of the city of San Francisco. They knew we had no shot of being able to reestablish our prominent position that we had occupied over the last 12, 15, 20 years as a result of being operatives. They knew that we would be at odds. On the 23rd of January, when they did the deed and ousted London Breed, we held a meeting and we said, how much do they have in the bank? They said, $400,000. We said, with the Brenda Wrights and all the black folk, women and men, by the 31st of January, we've got to have at least half of what they have. And where are we going to get it? Because it's $500 is all you can give. Well, I want you to know that on the 1st of February, when they looked at the record and they saw what the deal was, they had 400. We had raised $300,000 in 13 days. Suddenly, it's clear financially we were going to be competitive. Suddenly, it's clear that that competition may translate into something incredible. They begin to worry. They took out newspaper ads criticizing named contributors. They took out newspaper ads claiming that money was becoming an undue influence in the political process. They began to put together a campaign operation that had only one object: stop London breed, stop African Americans, stop the folk that represented only less than 5% of the total population. We teamed up. We teamed up with the Chinese. We knew that the Chinese would be objective about the Koreans. So we reminded them that she may look like you, but she ain't one of you. We went to the Latinos and we reminded them that on their soil, the most dramatic demonstration ever of a protest movement had been done by Tommy Smith and John Carlos when they did at the Olympics with the black glove, and they played it like, and there was no Trump and there was no NFL that could stop them from making that expression. 50 years later, it's still one of the key stones. We decided to make it that kind of a campaign. We decided also to say to those conservative white folk, listen, you are better off talking to us than you are talking to any of those other people. That business of so-called progressives, you got to watch out, because we really do want to replicate Coca-Cola in Florida. We really do want to represent what FedEx is doing in Tennessee. We really do want to do the kind of things that happens with the investment banking world. We really do want to do the entertainment world on the business side. They bought that. And lo and behold, as things unfolded with a crazy system, and these white people are amazing. They always devise a means by which to minimize our participation and maximize their participation. So they came up with something called ranked choice voting. In other words, they give you the opportunity to vote 3 times. You can't vote for the same person 3 times, but you can vote for 1, you can vote for 2, and you can vote for 3. And they figured that ain't nobody gonna give London breed 1, 2, or 3. They might give a 1, or they might give a 2, but they ain't gonna. And they went even further. They got the gay state senator and the Korean lady, and they caused them to become partners. And they said, we're gonna give you the opportunity to vote 1, 2, or 2-1. We don't care how you do it, because we need to stop breed. We had to go almost person to person. There's not a black person in San Francisco, 18 years of age or over, that didn't get an obligation to vote. Every church in San Francisco, every black church in San Francisco opened the prayer with whether or not you had absentee voted. We got the A. Philip Randolph Institute to unload like never before, because we can raise an unlimited amount of money to do that. Why am I opening my remarks with this remarkable achievement? On election night, they count the ones first. London Breed had outdistanced everybody by 10% on the ones. Then they start counting the twos. And before the evening ended, she was slightly behind. I knew that all the things that we had done, that was going to slowly but change. So they set, and it took them a whole week. Now, you know, in my world of politics, give me a week, and I'll give you whatever results you want. It's not a problem for me to do the counting. It's taken them a whole week. The Deltas, the black churches, the black labor movement showed up in numbers, populated the counting room, so not a soul in there could do anything about changing any of those numbers. And for 8 days, literally, that collection of people, the Deltas in red, the AKAs in pink, I mean, it was amazing how out of the woodwork comes all these people, black folk, that showed up to watch the vote count. And, you know, that election office had never held prayer service before the count started. And I got to believe that had some influence on what occurred in that room. The Lord clearly was present, and they had no way to deal with that. Every day, London Breed kept moving up, 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 and up. Finally, on Wednesday of this week, everybody conceded. All of her opponents, all of the ones that had run anybody but Breed campaign, had to acknowledge that this young 43-year-old single black woman, public housing project resident, currently a renter in a rent-controlled apartment, who's never earned more than I paid her when I served, is suddenly emerging as the smiling face and the symbol of San Francisco, a city with only 5% of the population black, a city that's no worse than one of the 10 top cities in America. She is now, for all of us, the symbol, the next step of where we ought to be in the world of politics. Because let me tell you, in the world of politics, if you are in the power, you have an incredible instrument that can be incredibly persuasive at making changes, institutional changes. Let me tell you what the legacy has been for our city. In spite of the small numbers, the person who runs all of the departments of the city, except maybe 2, is called the Chief Administrative Officer, one of the highest paid positions in the city. Who has that job? A black woman named Naomi Kelly that graduated from Howard University. Started with me. The second most significant position, and for those of you who are from Atlanta, you'll know this as important, is all of the public utilities, the water, the power, the lights. Who has that job? Naomi's husband, Harlan. Who is the police chief? Bill Scott, married to a woman who graduated from Spelman, black brother. I am telling you, it is amazing how utilizing all of the kind of talent and the training that have come from black schools, from non-black schools, from the dedication of emerging from the protest movement, from the Panthers, from a combination of people doing some of everything, and holding the power position that allows for decisions to be made that reflects good judgment, that reflects equal opportunity, that reflects empowerment, that reflects economic development, that reflects guidance and mentoring. We have literally emerged. London's election is going to be utilized and can be utilized across this country as a cornerstone of what can happen in the world of politics if you execute. And black folk will be responsive when we collectively demonstrate that there is a benefit that can flow from the casting of those ballots and those votes. I want London Breed to show up all over this country. I want every young woman, young black woman, to believe that they can be Glenda Hatchett, that they can be London Breed, that they can be Miss Bowser, the mayor of Washington, D.C., that they can be Keisha Lance Bottoms, the mayor of Atlanta, Georgia, that they can be, as the woman who is now the first black mayor of New Orleans, in America, through the world of politics, through the amassing of power that comes from politics, there is the opportunity to bring about significant change, and to bring about significant change overnight. Let me walk you through how I became the speaker. Most powerful job in California on any given day is that of the Speaker of the legislature. It is a job that comes from 41 of your colleagues out of 80 in the House saying you ought to run the place. The most time anybody has ever had is 7 years in that position. Well, lo and behold, in a fight among white people, there appeared to be an opportunity because the Democrats had 48 votes and the Republicans had 32 votes. And the Democrats are fighting among themselves, trying to get 41 out of 48. And I'm sitting there looking, and them poor Republicans are moping and crying and complaining about no representation, about discrimination, about no opportunity to be heard. I went over and said, listen, y'all, Lincoln started something. And you people haven't addressed that since Lincoln started it. 1865, and we celebrate on the 19th of June in Mineola, what Lincoln did in 1863, we didn't get word, because there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, there was none of the above, so we didn't get the word till, almost 2.5 years later. But when we did get the word, we knew what to do with it, and we did it. So I said, you people, you got 32 people. If 9 more people signed up with your 32, you could tell those Democrats where to go. They laughed. Nobody will ever do that. I said, yes, somebody will. Me. They looked at me and said, you got to be kidding. I said, no. Well, none of us really know you. I said, that's the good thing. Because if you did know me, you may not do it. But in view of the fact that you don't know me, you can be optimistic about the prospect. 32 Republicans, 28 of them bought the idea. They said, we can give you 28. Go find your 13. Well, what they didn't realize is I already had 13. I wasn't in there asking for anything except closure, but I couldn't tell them that. So I won the speakership with 28 Republicans and 23 Democrats. And I was, of course, castigated, because you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be committed to the Democrats. I said, that's right. I am, however, now defining who the Democrats really are. So you got to get committed to me. 15 years later, I was still the speaker. They tried everything in the world. They changed every rule. They did everything to try to get rid of me. They finally said, let's make sure that nobody can serve longer than 6 years. They couldn't make it retroactive, so in 6 years, I got to leave. Well, of course, after all that time, I had said arrogantly, as might be the case in some people's mind, when somebody said, who's going to replace you as speaker? I said, I don't know, but they're probably being conceived tonight somewhere, because I really thought I had the speakership till death. They changed the rules, and I had to leave, and I went on to become the mayor of San Francisco. Nothing could have been better. The Lord guided that. The Lord put that together. I went on to become mayor of San Francisco, and he gave me the opportunity to implement everything that I'd learned in a short period of time of 8 years in that position, to elevate the process, to produce the London breed. So when you put together the mentoring program that you talked about, when you put together the educational assistance program that you're talking about, when you put together the health and wellness advocacy that you do, you got to know that it is the threshold that may bring us the ultimate full participation in this system in every way, because it translates into an expanding role for us in the economy. And in this system, we are not going to be free and equal until we no longer have to depend upon Brenda to cover our ass in the bank. We need to be able to cover our own. And we can do that the way the brother obviously did it with Coca-Cola here in Florida. We can do it with black people doing it all over the country in a limited sphere. You represent the opportunity to expand and that process. And believe me, we desperately need to expand that process. This system is still just as indifferent to equality as it was when Martin started, as it was when Rosa Parks refused to move on that bus, as it was when Thurgood moved to the Supreme Court and said, I will serve until death. You understand that our obligations are mighty. Whether we're the 100 black men, whether we're the alphas, the kappas, the omegas, or even the sigma gamma rhoas, we are obligated to participate and to do what needs to be done. And an opportunity is afforded on almost every score, because the opposition never suspects that we can be competitive. London Breed presents the example of how we can be competitive. Keisha and Lance Bottoms presents the opportunity as to how we can be competitive. At every stage, there's somebody whom we can embrace, and we should embrace, and we should do it in a way that gives them the assurance that they can make intelligent decisions to bring about a change. Ultimate equality reflects and requires that, and I know collectively we can do it. Thank you.